All right, I've roughly finished the neck. Well, not that rough. Looking pretty good. Just a couple more things to do. Of course, I have to put the tuners in, have to attach a nut. I'll check the frets to see how much leveling they need. That's one of my least favorite parts of the guitar build, that and the electronics. But in any event, I have glued the neck in, and I'm going to make a scratch plate, and I think it's going to look pretty nice out of the scratch plate material. I've roughly cut it out, and I've cut out and sanded a template to route that to make it nice looking. I just need to make a hole in the template to accommodate one humbucking pickup. That's all this guitar will have. The shape doesn't easily allow for more than that. Well, maybe it would. Maybe you could get a couple of pickups in there, but anyway, I'm only putting one in, and I'm going to use the hole from a previous pickguard scratch plate, whatever you call it, template, as the template for that hole to make my life a little bit easier. I will cut that out and route it to shape, and I'll bring you back into the picture when I am routing the scratch plate and getting back into the build. I'm drilling some holes in the guitar, obviously. I'm drilling out most of the pickup cavity, and then I'll use a template and a router to make it nice and clean. The holes at the ends are to accommodate the tabs on each end of the pickup. And I'm also drilling a hole which will be under the scratch plate. Obviously I wouldn't want that hole to be visible, but that's to make it easier to get an earth wire from the bridge into the pickup cavity. I'll show you more about that later, but for now let's finish the drilling. Okay, a router, in spite of the fact that it has dealt me my worst injury ever, although that was a table router, a router I think is possibly my favourite tool. The more I use hand planes, the more I like them as well, but you can do so much with a router. And that is the hole for the earth wire, so that it can get from the pickup cavity to being trapped under the bridge. So, I have routed out a small cavity in the back. There are only going to be 2 knobs, so I only need a small cavity and no switch because there's just one pickup. And then drilled a hole through, which was much easier. In saying that, I hope the hole came out in the right place. I'm pretty sure it did, but let's just check. And there it is, in the cavity. That's good. That's as good a place as any. Nice. Okay. So now I have my cavities front and back. How am I going to cover the rear cavity? I don't know. I've got options. I'll think about it later. I'm at the point now where I've got a few miscellaneous tasks to do, and there's no real right order in which to do them. So what do I have to do? Well, I've got some wiring to do, and I've got a diagram off the internet to help me do that because I'm not really much of an electrician. I have taken this rather long drill bit as well as a Forstner bit. It's not very light on the other end, you can't see the light coming through. There's a hole running from where the socket will be for the cable all the way to the control cavity. What I think I'm going to do today is pay a little bit of attention to these cracks and holes. I like the fact that they're there because they really add the whole rustic feel of a recycled wood guitar body, but they are liabilities in that they do present opportunities for damage. Some of it I can't really do much about, like that there on the edge. That's just going to have to remain as it is. But I think, I've been mulling it over, I think I'm going to put epoxy resin in the imperfections and holes like that. There are just a few of them, not many on the body. I'll put epoxy resin in there, let it cure and go hard, and then sand it so that the epoxy resin is only in the crack and not on the surface. I think that's what I'm going to do. I can't do the front and the back in one go, so I just need to make up enough for the front, which is almost nothing really, because it's just those two little holes. Now you could be a bit more careful than I am and measure things very precisely, or even weigh them to be extra sure. But I think I'm getting this about right. I've done one large epoxy resin job, well, large-ish. No, I've done a couple actually. I've done a tabletop, and I've done the workbench where I filled in quite a number of small holes. So I think I'm getting the knack for getting these mixtures right, he said, hopefully. It's difficult to make up very small amounts, so I'm probably going to have a little more than I need. But that's it. Oh, there's a tiny crack there. Yep, so I have about as much as I've used again sitting in the cup. So I've sanded the whole body so that you can see where those holes were, and now they are clear, like glass or plastic. They look quite good. I think they'll look even better under oil. Right, so what I'm beginning to do now is the fretting, which is quite fiddly work. It's not something I enjoy that much. I've already done the leveling, and I've been reading and watching videos on and just thinking about different ways of doing the fret leveling. This time I've done it with the radius sanding block with some 400 grit paper, and just gone back and forth enough times so that there are no detectable high or low spots along the frets. And now, I've used this once or twice before, I forget, but it's really very effective, and it's very cheap, and it came from eBay. It's a crowning file, which is a piece of metal with a concave file on each edge, so that you can file the crown back onto the surface, back onto the top of the fret after you've leveled it. And it doesn't even appear to be scratching the fretboard when you do this. I've done a couple of frets. I am going to put tape onto the fretboard though, just to be safe, because I'll say, oh look, it doesn't even scratch the fretboard, and then I'll scratch the fretboard. So I'll tape it up and then continue with the crowning. So what I'm finding using this file is that it's a great concept in principle, and this was only a few dollars. And you can get some good things that are really cheap, and this isn't absolutely terrible. But what I was finding is that it wasn't putting much of a peak onto the fret because it's so wide. Now it could work for some really huge frets, maybe on a bass with large frets, but it is a little bit wide to be effective on here. It's so wide that it actually starts to take material off the top of the crown, which you don't really want. So just for now, I've gone back to using this file, which I got from Crimson Guitars. It's more, well, it's not really hard to use, but it's more difficult than that. That was a really simple solution. Whereas with this one, you have to file the bevel onto one side and then onto the other. But that's what I'm going to do just for now. There is a nice looking other file which works on the same principle as this. I'll show it to you when I get it. I just watched a video of someone crowning their frets using one, and it has a narrower concave than that has, which is what makes it better. But for now, I'm going to do it the slightly more difficult and time-consuming way. I'm going to say this lots of times. Every time I do a video about fretting, I'll say this: I don't like fretting. I really don't. Never mind.